It's 2 a.m. in Tel Aviv. The city should be asleep. Streets that are normally filled with late night traffic and glowing restaurant lights are almost completely dark. Windows are shut. Balconies are empty. People have learned something over the past few days that no city ever wants to learn: light can make you a target. Somewhere in the distance, the quiet night suddenly breaks. The siren begins again. At first, it's just a distant wail carried by the wind, but within seconds the sound spreads across the entire city like an alarm echoing through concrete and steel. For a moment there is silence inside apartments, inside offices, inside small homes where families have been trying to sleep despite the tension in the air. Then the movement begins. Doors open. Lights flicker briefly before turning off again. Footsteps hurry through hallways and down staircases. Because everyone here now knows what that sound means. Your body reacts before your brain fully catches up. You grab your phone, maybe a jacket, maybe nothing at all, and start moving toward the nearest shelter. The route has already become familiar. In some buildings it's a reinforced basement. In others it's a concrete safe room. In older neighborhoods people run toward public shelters built decades ago for wars that residents hoped would never return. But tonight they are running again. Because somewhere far beyond the horizon, the missiles have already been launched. And once they are in the air, there are only minutes to react. As people rush underground, something else is happening high above the clouds. A flash appears in the sky, then another, and another. These flashes are not lightning. They are the defensive shield activating. Interceptors launch from batteries positioned across the country, racing upward at incredible speeds. One of those systems is the Aero Missile Defense System, designed specifically to destroy ballistic missiles before they reach Israeli cities. Each interceptor streaks upward like a bright spear of light, disappearing into the darkness above. Seconds later there is an explosion in the upper atmosphere. A violent burst of fire and debris where one missile has just destroyed another. To someone watching from the ground it might look almost beautiful, like fireworks breaking apart across the night sky. But behind that brief flash of light is something most people never see. Every one of those interceptors costs millions of dollars. In just a few seconds, $3 million can disappear in a single defensive launch. And sometimes multiple interceptors are fired at one incoming missile to make sure the interception succeeds. Because if it fails, the consequences are far worse than the cost. A single missile getting through could mean a building destroyed, a highway struck, or lives lost. That is the brutal calculation behind modern missile defense: spend millions now or risk devastation later. The people sitting in shelters across Tel Aviv understand this reality more clearly than anyone watching television coverage from thousands of miles away. When the sirens first began days ago, there was panic. Fear moves quickly when people don't know what is happening or how long it will last. But panic fades once a pattern appears. And tonight the pattern has become clear. The attacks are not random. They are coming in waves. Carefully timed, deliberately spaced, designed to keep the entire country on edge hour after hour. What many viewers around the world see on the news looks very different from what people on the ground are experiencing. News broadcasts often focus on the dramatic moments: the bright streak of an interceptor meeting an incoming missile, the explosion in the sky, the words, "intercepted successfully," scrolling across the screen. And those statements are technically true. Many of the incoming missiles are being stopped before they reach their targets. But the television coverage rarely focuses on another part of the story: the numbers behind those interceptions, the cost, the resources being used, the speed at which those resources are being consumed. To understand why those numbers matter, we have to step back and look at the broader conflict unfolding between Israel and Iran. For years, both countries have prepared for a scenario exactly like this. Iran invested heavily in building one of the largest missile arsenals in the Middle East. These missiles vary in range, accuracy, and capability, but they share one important advantage: they are relatively inexpensive compared to the systems designed to stop them. Meanwhile, Israel invested billions of dollars creating one of the most advanced missile defense networks in the world. Systems like Iron Dome, David's Sling, and the Arrow system form multiple layers of protection designed to intercept threats at different stages of flight. For years, many analysts believed that this layered defense made Israel nearly untouchable from large-scale missile attacks. The systems were tested repeatedly and showed impressive success rates. Rockets launched from nearby regions were intercepted before reaching major population centers. Each successful interception reinforced the perception that the defensive shield was nearly impenetrable. But there was always another factor hidden behind those success stories, something that rarely appeared in headlines, something that military strategists quietly discussed in think tanks and classified briefings. That factor was economics. Missile defense systems are incredibly sophisticated machines. They rely on advanced radar, complex guidance systems, high-precision propulsion, and years of engineering research. Every interceptor represents a massive investment of technology and manufacturing. By contrast, the missiles they are designed to destroy can sometimes be built far more cheaply. Not because they are simple, but because offensive weapons often do not require the same level of precision or technological complexity as defensive interceptors. This difference creates a strange imbalance in modern warfare. Imagine a situation where an attacking missile costs $200,000 to produce. Now imagine that stopping that missile requires an interceptor costing $3 million. Suddenly the defender is spending far more money than the attacker during every engagement. And if multiple interceptors are fired to guarantee success, the cost difference grows even larger. Now imagine this happening not once, but hundreds of times in a single day. That is exactly what began unfolding during a 24-hour period that military analysts are now studying very closely. Over the course of one day, multiple waves of missiles were launched toward Israeli territory. Not all at once, not in a single overwhelming strike. Instead, they were spread out in carefully timed sequences. Each wave triggered the defensive network again and again. Interceptors launched. Explosions filled the sky. Sirens sounded across cities and towns. And every response required another interceptor leaving its launch platform and racing toward the incoming threat. From a purely tactical perspective, many of these interceptions were successful. A large percentage of incoming missiles were destroyed before they could reach populated areas. But when analysts later began examining the numbers behind the engagement, something troubling emerged. The cost of defending against the attack may have been dramatically higher than the cost of launching it. And that realization leads to a deeper strategic question. Because wars are not only fought with weapons and soldiers, they are also fought with resources, production capacity, and time. A defense system may be extremely effective, but if the resources required to operate it are consumed faster than they can be replaced, the long-term balance begins to shift. This is why the attacks were structured in waves. Each new barrage forced another defensive response. Each response required another series of interceptors, and each interceptor represented another piece of a finite stockpile being used. Missile interceptors are not unlimited. They must be manufactured, transported, and stored. Replacing them is not something that happens overnight. Production lines take time to build more. Supply chains must deliver specialized components. And even the most advanced defense systems cannot launch interceptors that do not exist. For the civilians sitting in shelters across Tel Aviv, these larger strategic calculations may feel distant compared to the immediate fear of incoming missiles. But the two realities are deeply connected, because the strength of a nation's defensive shield depends not only on technology, but on the ability to sustain that defense over time. If the attacks continue day after day, the question becomes increasingly difficult: how long can the defense keep up?